here to help us parse everything that just happened and everything that will happen. We have present tense CBSN political contributors Liz Smith and Hogan Gidley. Liz is a Democratic strategist and Hogan a Republican strategist. All right, Liz, so the polls are opening up. Where are you looking? What's most interesting to you statewide?
Really, the Eastern time zone. We got Ohio, North Carolina, Florida, New Hampshire, Pennsylvania. And when those results come in, the race could be over. So those are the first states that I'm going to be looking at. But within those states, I'm going to also be looking at some of the trends. And we've seen in early voting huge Latino turnout, which is pretty incredible. Hillary Clinton hasn't spoken a ton to Latino issues in this campaign. And the Latino community has been at the brunt of some of the nastiest attacks from Donald Trump. He's accused them of being prone to criminality and undermining the fabric of our country. So as uninspiring and sometimes depressing as this election cycle has been, the incredible turnout that we've been seeing in early vote, and especially among the Latino community, is kind of the antidote to the ugliness of this campaign. And it does show that people still believe in the power of voting and our social compact.
Can I just, one follow-up? You said that Hillary Clinton hasn't spoken much to Latinos. In fact, she has said a lot about immigration specifically, which is an issue that matters with the Latino community in the U.S. and has staked out a position that is more to the left of President Obama. Yeah,
for sure. She has staked out a position, but I think a lot of people would disagree with you on that. She spoke a lot about it in the primary, but since the primary, it has been shockingly absent given the stark contrast with Donald Trump. And, hopefully, my hope on this is that the turnout among the Latino community forces both Republicans and Democrats to speak more directly to them and their issues.
Hogan, do you agree with Liz's suggestion that Hillary Clinton has, essentially to a degree, forgotten a voting bloc that seemed ripe for the picking here?
Forgotten in the right word. I think she is correct that Hillary Clinton hasn't really spoken to.
Was it willful ignorance?
No, I think, she did, let's be fair, she did speak to it in a private fundraiser where she said we should just have open borders, so that's one thing. But I do agree with her lack of addressing the issue. She didn't really need to stake out a position because Donald Trump had staked out his, which was a wall, which was deporting people who were here illegally. And so the contrast was already there. It wasn't like she had to outline something. I do think, though, the changing demographic in this country is something that Republicans and Democrats began to address more earnestly, probably back in 2008. And, with what happened in the 2012 election with Mitt Romney, one of the statistics that really always stuck out in my head was the fact that George H.W. Bush received 60% of the white vote and won handedly. Mitt Romney also got the same 60% and got trounced. So there is a shifting demographic of people who vote, and I think the Latino vote this time was not just undervalued. I think it's definitely underpolled and undersampled. When you're seeing 139% increase in Latino vote in Florida, that could be the difference in that state. While African American turnout is down, we don't know how much the Latino vote will offset that, but by all indications, it's by massive numbers.
And setting aside whether or not Hillary has talked to that community, they have absolutely been organizing in that community.
Yes.
You read some of the reporting about the way they have targeted Hispanic women in particular in places like Nevada and Arizona, Florida. Liz, the Hispanic population in the state of Florida is changing a lot. We think of it as Cuban Americans, but in fact, Puerto Rican Americans may prove the critical votes in that state.
Yeah, no, we've seen a huge influx of Puerto Ricans into Florida. Also, the Dominican community there is growing too. And it's not just Florida. If you look in North Carolina, over the last 4 years, the Latino community has doubled there. In Pennsylvania, that's another place we don't talk about. They've got a huge Dominican community and a growing Latino community. So it's everywhere. It's not just in Florida. And it's incredible now that they could be the decisive vote in this election. And it really sends a strong message to Republicans and to Donald Trump.
And you brought up North Carolina and the Latino voting in North Carolina, and I think that will be a huge impact. But I think the major difference in North Carolina, quite frankly, in the Research Triangle in the Wake County area, which is Raleigh, usually decided by suburban women, is the influx of you dirty Yankees coming in North Carolina. That's really going to be a huge impact because it is really
that part of the South is really changed.
Purpleized North Carolina, if you will. And of course, as we've talked about, Raleigh's a big impact, but also Charlotte, Mecklenburg County. I think North Carolina is going to be the most interesting state for me, not just because it's more southern than the other states we're addressing other than Florida, but it's its own place. I think it's really interesting because you do have such an influx of folks from out of state coming in, impacting that election over the last few years.
It also speaks to, I mean, we spoke of organization, but it speaks to a thing that, for whatever reason, the Trump campaign seemed to believe to the very last it could operate without a ground game, any really semblance of one, especially in states such as Florida and North Carolina that would matter. However, we saw this dating back to 2008. I mean, Barack Obama won, in fact, because he saw the need for that sort of nimble state-by-state ground game. The GOP autopsy of 2012, meanwhile, suggested exactly that which we're seeing here, that these demographics would, in fact, play a major factor in 2016 and beyond. So, was there just a disconnect that could never quite be bridged there between the GOP and the campaign? I
don't want to say a disconnect, but look, in 2008, from 2008, the loss we had with McCain, I remember the RNC and the GOP were basically saying that 2012 we're way better, our turnout's better, we're eclipsing John McCain numbers, and I thought to myself, I hope so, because John McCain got trounced. John McCain's not the bar. It was now set higher by Barack Obama. And he wasn't sitting still for 8 years. He was building this network that Hillary Clinton tapped into. Donald Trump, when he began this, we all wondered if the people who turned out to his rallies would actually translate to real votes. It happened in every single primary. The difference is we're not dealing in primary politics now. We're obviously dealing in a general election. I do think that enthusiasm is up. Polls show that amongst Republicans more than Democrats. So we don't need as big of a turnout apparatus. But when you're talking about slivers of percentages, you need that assurance. Again, the traditional political apparatus, the traditional political norms may not exist in totality in this election, but the same get out the vote effort you need to have to get people to the polls.
Well, he sort of broke the mold in the primary, and it seems like he was sort of banking on doing the same thing in the general, and that's just not really how it works. You know, you really do need an operation to get voters to the polls, and they just never put the effort into doing that.
And to be fair, Democrats need that a little bit more than Republicans. Yeah. We're a little bit more motivated to vote in general. You guys have Jay-Z, Beyonce, we use Ted Nugent, but either way, we're typically more apt to get to the polls.
And to be clear, those concerts featuring those big name artists, especially previous to last night, were not just about the fanfare, but also registering folks, right? There was a data operation behind that.
And there's so many interesting tactics that they used around it. For instance, like handing out the tickets across from early vote polling stations. So the Clinton campaign was very smart in how they did it, and completely at odds with what we saw from the Trump campaign when they would have rallies and have people sign in, and then you just see the spreadsheets with everyone's voter information just lying on the floor afterwards.
Data lost is data lost.
Liz, if the tea leaves we have to read here suggest good things for Hillary Clinton at this point. If you are Hillary Clinton, though, you're waking up today, what's most concerning on this final day?
Is where do we go from here? Does the questions I'd be asking is Donald Trump going to accept the results of the election? Assuming that the tea leaves.
But wait, let's not assume that. I mean, with regard to.
With regard to today.
With the actual vote that's actually happening.
It's been a very wacky year, and that's an understatement. So I think they're taking nothing for granted, and the only anxiety that they would have is everything that they've done, that everything that they know works, going to work, or is Donald Trump somehow going to shock the political establishment again? And are these Trump unicorn voters somehow going to materialize and turn out? That's probably what their biggest concern is today.
Well, I wouldn't call them necessarily unicorns, only because
The hidden voters?
No, not necessarily. I'm not just addressing them. I'm talking about anybody who votes for Donald Trump, the hidden ones notwithstanding. But I mean, the one poll where Donald Trump consistently outperforms Hillary Clinton is his ability to handle the economy or jobs issues. And as we all know, jobs are the number one issue that cuts across all demographic, all age groups, all races. And I saw a poll yesterday, day before, that Donald Trump could double Mitt Romney's vote totals with African Americans. He's actually gone into these communities more so than Republicans have in the past. That doesn't mean he's going to get a lot of votes from that community, but at least he's doing it. We've ignored that for so long, and Republicans will go, but it'll be the affluent areas. Donald Trump's gone into some tough areas and done some campaigning as well. So the unicorn, while I understand there are some hidden voters out there, but I do think there are hidden voters for Hillary Clinton too. I think there are quite a few Republicans who are out there going, I want to vote for her, but I don't want to tell anybody that I'm going to vote for her too. So all the speculation about what the Latino vote does, the African American vote does, the unicorn votes, the hidden votes, we're going to find that out in T-minus however many hours. So we can speculate now, but we'll know the actual raw data here in 11 hours.
Liz, you were rolling your eyes.
Yeah, well, okay, just when you talk about Donald Trump going into, traditionally black areas, let's look at what he was saying. He was saying, you are living in hell. You get shot when you go to the store. He wasn't exactly, selling a message of optimism.
Right, but you don't think they know that? People in Chicago don't know it's a rough place?
I think they know that they're not living in hell, and I don't think that's the right message to send.
I didn't say that's the right message. I'm saying you don't think they know it's tough?
Everyone knows it's tough. We live in a tough time. That's why we see so much anxiety, not only in this country, but across the world. And so, but denigrating a community, giving into stereotypes like that, again, presuming that these communities are prone to criminality is not successful outreach.
That wasn't the message. And there are plenty of African American leaders who say the same thing. That the African American crime on African American crime is the leading cause of death. It's a horrible issue, and no one's talking about it.
There has been some strong pushback from communities of color about some of that rhetoric. To be fair,
many, but some people.
But to your point, Hogan, Donald Trump has made Donald Trump's efforts to reach out to that community. It is also worth noting the non-college educated white vote, what some people are calling the unicorns, that slice of the American public is larger than America's Hispanic and African American and Asian communities put together. Mm-hmm. So numerically, the votes could be there, but can he actually turn them out? And
with that massive apparatus that doesn't exist.
It's a huge question.
Hogan, Gidley, Liz Smith, you're ours for the day. Thanks for being here.